Donald Trump has called for the January 6th committee members to be tried for treason, says political hacks and thugs on panel should be thrown in jail for refusing to show videos aired by Tucker Carlson. Treason. Wow. He went way further than me. I said fraud or something like that, or violation of constitutional rights. I think there's a law, someone sent this to us, that says if you use your position of government authority to subvert someone's constitutional rights, then you are guilty of a crime. And as it pertains to the Q shaman and many people who were arrested and charged on January 6th, they did withhold evidence from the public. And now we're hearing the Q shaman's defense attorney says, we did not have access to that footage. Footage that, in my opinion, completely exonerates the Q shaman. Now, of course, the media is still lying about all of it. And that's why I think they're all complicit. So I would only say this. I hope that when Donald Trump gets reelected and the Republicans take the Senate and the House, assuming any of that happens, who knows, maybe it won't, they immediately make criminal referrals to the January 6th Select Committee. I want to see these people criminally indicted for fraud against the American public, for corruption, for abuse of power, violating constitutional rights. They should be in jail. But you know what's going to happen? None of that. Why? Because you're going to get a bunch of people on the right who are going to say, well, now, but we don't want them to do it to us. You're in a culture war. You're in a cold civil war. They already are doing it to you. So you can sit back and say, oh, gee, golly. Or you can fight back. Donald Trump knows it too well. They accuse Trump of being a Soviet agent. I'm not kidding. Like guy Jonathan Chait goes on MSNBC or whatever. I think it was MSNBC. And he was like, Trump may have been a Russian asset since the 80s, which would imply a Soviet asset. The Soviet Union never fell. Sure. Here's a story from the Daily Mail. Trump has called for the members of the January 6th committee to be tried for treason because they knowingly refused to share the Capitol riot footage aired by Tucker Carlson. The former president called members of the Democrat-led panel political hacks and thugs that have been totally discredited by the new videos. In his Truth Social post, he also called for the release of all jailed January 6 prisoners and suspects after the Fox News host aired more clips, the release of all of the suspects and prisoners. It included an interview with a Capitol cop wearing a MAGA hat during the riot who resigned a short time later. Carlson has been handed 40,000 hours of footage from inside the Capitol, which House Speaker McCarthy says was a decision made for transparency. Now, for most people, maybe you don't know, most of that footage is nothing, literal nothing. It sounds like a lot of footage, but there's cameras everywhere. And a lot of the camera footage is like empty hallways and empty rooms and furniture and things like that. But of the key areas where it went down, I think we heard there's like 20,000 hours of footage of what really happened. How many people would be exonerated as bumbling dotards who walked into a building let in by police if that footage was made public? Great job by Tucker Carlson tonight, Trump wrote late Tuesday night. The unselect committee of political hacks and thugs has been totally discredited. They knowingly refused to show the videos that mattered. They should be tried for fraud and treason, and those imprisoned and being persecuted should be exonerated and released now. I got to be honest, my Trump impersonation is not good because I actually just can't do a Trump impersonation. So what I do is I try to impersonate Seamus Coughlin of Freedom Tunes impersonating Trump. That seems to work for me. And then you get this weird non-Trump Trump. Treason is punishable by death in the United States. Jeez. And the lowest prison sentence is 5 years. I don't think it's treason. It is described in the criminal code as whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the U.S. or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years and fined under this title, but not less than $10,000, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. Sedition, maybe? I would call it a seditious conspiracy. Can we get seditious conspiracy charges against these people? On Monday, Carlson claimed the footage showed the rioters were mostly peaceful. Hey, it's a fact. Look at the data. The data shows that I think around 90% of those charged were charged for parading and trespassing, not for violence. Most people who were arrested for violent actions were, most of Most of the people who were arrested and charged were for nonviolent actions, and only around 10% of the people arrested and charged were for violent actions. Hey, lock those people up. Okay, you want to riot, you want to be violent, fine. But there were people who were let in by cops. They say it was mostly peaceful. On Tuesday, spoke with Lieutenant Tarek Johnson about the unrest. Johnson told Carlson that his bosses had failed them, saying the Capitol Police commanders were ill-prepared and did not answer when he radioed seeking guidance. He said it was shameful that his boss, Assistant Chief Yogananda Pittman, who oversaw the department's operations in the days leading up to the riot, had been praised by Pelosi and was now in a cozy role heading up policing at the University of California in Berkeley. Oh, surprise, surprise. Big jobs for people who play ball. The frontline officers and supervisors were not prepared at all, Johnson told Carlson. We had no idea we were going to be facing what we faced that day. Carlson broadcast footage of Johnson appearing to help protect members of Congress inside the building when it was stormed. Johnson was suspended the day after the riot when footage of him in a MAGA cap emerged. He then resigned, believing he had no future in the force. Around 2 o'clock, I hear an officer say the Capitol was breached, so I ran inside to assist, adding that he locked doors to keep the political leaders safe. He then radioed his bosses for help. I said something to the effect of, "We need direction. What do you want me to do?" Nobody responded. So let me break this down for you. Tucker Carlson not only showed the violence, he showed the nuance. He even brought in a Capitol cop who said, yeah, it was pretty bad. And for that, they have said Tucker Carlson is a liar. They have called on Fox News to shut down his show, which will never happen. And let me just say, these people are the definition of evil. Trump calling for them to be tried for treason. Okay, let's wind things down a little bit here, Mr. President. Seditious conspiracy. I believe that the January 6th committee members should all of them, be investigated for seditious conspiracy because what they did undermined this country to such a degree we're on the verge of ripping each other apart. If they were honest, talked about what really happened and showed the nuance, perhaps we'd come to some understanding. But they're evil. The January 6th committee is a symptom of a disease plaguing this once great nation, that our culture is bifurcated. And because of a lack of cultural cohesion and moral cohesion, you have people who are simply extracting everything they can. And that means piece by piece, the building is falling apart. It is a house that is made of golden bricks, and we all try to maintain it, this beautiful place that we live. One by one, people have been pulling bricks from the foundation and running away with them. Or how about this? Here's a better analogy. It was the shining city on the hill, the golden city, the emerald city. And these people, these Democrats, want to extract from it as much as they can as they destroy it. They don't care if it falls apart. The snowflake doesn't blame itself for the avalanche. So they walk up and they pull gold from the building, from its foundation, until one day it will come crashing down. But that's kind of the point. Maybe, as I've stated before, the Titanic that is the United States has already hit the iceberg. The sinking is inevitable. Maybe not, but that's what they believe. Or perhaps there is such lack of cohesion that these individuals, like these Democrats, feel the best option for them, the safest, is to grab a bunch of silverware and fine china, throw it in a lifeboat, and just get out while you still can. And what they'll do is they'll take all of that wealth and they'll invest it in China and other countries. And then when the U.S. comes crashing down, they'll maintain their wealthy lives under the boot of the Chinese Communist Party. That's where it feels like we're headed. Because if it was Trump, I wondered about this. Maybe Trump sees the same thing. He sees this country is sinking. And so what he decides to do is say, look, we're not going to be the unipolar world power. The dollar will likely falter as the global reserve. But that means secure our borders, bring manufacturing back, shore up our defenses, and we will make it through. I'll give you another analogy. A storm is coming, a bad one, and we can see it. The winds are already fierce and causing damage to the property. And you have the Democrats and you have Trump. And the Democrats say, look, I'm going to grab as much stuff as I can, get in the car and drive off. And Trump says, we cannot abandon the people who live here. The storm's coming, so board up the doors and windows, and it will get bad, but we will make it through. Pick one. You want to stand by and watch as they grab all of your stuff from your house, throw it in a pickup truck, and just speed off into the distance? That ain't going to help you. Oh, but they'll leave and they'll go to a neighbor's property. Or you can stand with Trump. I don't think treason's the answer, but seditious conspiracy, I think, would work. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.